Dawn rises not with a blaze, but with a quiet trembling, an exhale from the world itself. Light seeps through the canopy in thin, wandering threads, touching the forest floor the way a waking mind reaches for its first thought. Dew beads cling to the edges of leaves like fragments of broken stars, and the undergrowth hums with the slow awakening of life. But beneath this gentle unfolding, far below the reach of sunlight, something ancient and invisible is preparing its first heartbeat. In a chamber carved into the soil, sealed tight from the dangers above, a lone figure stirs. The queen lies still at first, her breath faint, her body heavy with the exhaustion of a journey that nearly killed her. Once, just hours ago, she soared through open sky, her wings catching the wind with effortless grace. Now those same wings drag against the earth like relics from a forgotten past. She shifts, gathering strength, and begins the quiet ritual that will define the rest of her existence. Without hesitation, she brings her mandibles to her thorax. One decisive bite, then another. The wings fall away in two brittle pieces. The pain radiates across her body, but she does not pause. She cannot. The sky is behind her now. The earth is her future. She presses deeper into the darkness of the chamber, sealing the entrance behind her, shutting out the world she once knew. Her life narrows to this suffocating cradle of soil, but her purpose expands into something far greater. Her first egg appears like a drop of living light, small, perfect, trembling with fragile promise. She lowers her antennae to it, reading its warmth, its moisture, its viability. Satisfied, she lays another, and another. A cluster forms beneath her abdomen, each egg a tiny beacon against the darkness. She grooms them with tireless precision, rotating, cleaning, protecting them from invisible threats. She will not eat. She will not sleep. Every moment is devoted to this fragile constellation of future lives. Above her, the forest is a chaos of footsteps and shifting vibrations. A beetle scratches at bark. A lizard drags its weight through the leaves. A bird lands heavily on a root, its talons digging in. Each tremor ripples through the soil, reaching the queen in faint shivers. Instinctively, she spreads her body across the eggs, shielding them with her mass. The world beyond is full of predators, disasters, and blind destruction. Down here, she alone stands between survival and oblivion. Time slips into a rhythm without hours. Days blur. The queen's body grows thinner, her reserves slowly consumed as she feeds the developing larvae with the only nourishment she can offer, herself. Muscles dissolve. Fat stores break down. Her chemistry transforms to sustain the helpless newborns that writhe softly beneath her. One larva becomes two, then five, then a growing chorus of hungry bodies pressing gently against her legs. When the larvae pupate, she arranges them with careful accuracy, lifting each soft casing into a stable cluster. She checks them constantly, turning them to prevent mold, dust, or deadly moisture. Her movements grow slower, weaker, but no less precise. Every instinct tells her that she must endure long enough for them to emerge, long enough for the next generation to take its first breath. One day, a twitch, a crack, a faint shiver breaks the stillness. The first worker emerges pale and trembling, her legs wobbling beneath her as her exoskeleton slowly hardens. The queen touches her lightly, transferring chemical signals that mark her as kin and carve her purpose into her being. The worker responds instantly. She begins cleaning the chamber, reinforcing the walls, tending to the remaining pupae with meticulous instinct. Her life is not her own. It belongs to the colony she now serves. More workers hatch, first a handful, then dozens. Their movements grow synchronized, their energy multiplying through the narrow corridors of the nest. The queen, sensing their presence, resumes her rhythm of laying eggs. Her abdomen swells once more, pulsing with renewed life. And above them, the world waits. The first worker to climb toward the surface hesitates at the entrance, her antennae flicking at the unfamiliar scents. The air is thick with humidity, danger, and opportunity. The forest rises around her like a cathedral of roots and rotting leaves. But instinct pushes her forward. She steps into the light, unsteady, cautious, driven by ancient purpose. Her first discovery is small but potent, a droplet of fermenting sap clinging to a fallen branch. She tastes it, lifts it, and begins the arduous journey home. The terrain shifts beneath her. A shadow passes dangerously close overhead. But she carries on, weighed down not by fear, but by responsibility. When she returns, the nest changes. Workers gather around her, absorbing the chemical story she brings. The queen receives the first nourishment from her offspring. A new pulse spreads through the colony, one of expansion, ambition, awakening. Soon workers carve more tunnels. They widen corridors, strengthen ceilings, and create new chambers. They forage farther, bringing back insects, seeds, and fragments of fruit. The nest grows into a living machine, its movements synchronized, its purpose sharpened. Yet even as they rise, the forest watches. Predators stalk the shadows. A rival colony scent drifts faintly across the soil. The world above is not generous. It is not patient. It is not safe. But the colony has taken its first breath, and it will not be its last. The days that follow unfold with a rhythm that feels older than the forest itself. The colony, once a trembling speck of life sealed beneath the earth, now moves with deliberate confidence. Tunnels stretch outward in thin, exploratory branches. Chambers expand as workers chew through compacted soil grain by grain. The soft scrape of mandibles becomes the heartbeat of the underground world, steady, relentless, growing stronger with every passing hour. Above ground, light shifts through the canopy in long sweeping arcs. The forest floor warms during the day and cools sharply when night returns, creating cycles of scent, vibration, and opportunity. The workers learn these patterns quickly. They memorize the safest routes beneath exposed roots, the quickest paths to fallen fruit, and the subtle changes in airflow that signal shifting weather. Food becomes more abundant. A torn piece of beetle shell, a soft fragment of seed, a dying termite carried between three determined workers. Every offering feeds the brood deep below, strengthening the next generation long before it emerges. Nurses divide themselves among larvae of varying ages, delivering nourishment, adjusting humidity, and shaping the young with tireless devotion. The queen, massive, rooted, unwavering, continues her pulse of creation. Her abdomen swells with the rhythm of new life. Her pheromones drift through the tunnels in slow, deliberate waves, binding every worker to the same invisible mandate: grow, protect, expand. But with expansion comes threat. One morning, long before the sun fully breaks the canopy, a faint disruption trembles through the ground. A worker freezes mid-step. Her antennae sweep the soil. There, faint but clear, the unmistakable chemical footprint of outsiders. Rival ants, not a passing wanderer, but a scent thick enough to signal territory. Without hesitation, she releases alarm pheromones, sharp and urgent. The nest reacts instantly. Defenders surge toward strategic choke points. Larger workers with stronger mandibles, their bodies built for conflict in narrow corridors where numbers matter less than precision. The rival scouts appear at the surface moments later. Lean-bodied, fast, aggressive, they descend upon the entrance in a narrowing wave. The first clash is silent, then explosive. Mandibles lock, bodies twist. Workers force their enemies into tight spaces where their own formations hold the advantage. Inside the tunnels, defenders brace themselves shoulder to shoulder, forming living walls. Every fallen invader is thrown aside, every breach immediately sealed, every inch of soil reclaimed by sheer determination. The fire ants press forward with coordinated fury, pushing the attackers back through the entrance, back across the leaf litter, back into the fracturing line of their own pheromone trail. When the enemy finally retreats, the defenders pursue just far enough to send a message, a silent declaration carved in scent and soil. This ground is taken. Repairs begin immediately. Workers patch collapsed tunnels, reinforce weak walls, and bury the bodies of the fallen in distant disposal chambers. There is no pause for grief. For ants, survival is the only ritual. In the hours after the battle, a new wave of workers emerges from pupal casings, pale, trembling, soft as fresh wax. They are greeted by nurses who clean them, feed them, and direct them toward their duties. The queen's influence strengthens further as more of her brood steps into the world. But the forest has new plans. Clouds gather above the canopy like colossal shadows resting on the treetops. The air thickens. The wind slows. The first raindrops strike the forest floor as small, deliberate impacts. Then a cascade follows. Sheets of water crash through leaves and roots, turning soil into shifting currents. Workers scramble to the surface, reinforcing the entrance as water threatens to collapse the upper level of the nest. They build dams of packed earth, redirecting flow away from weakened walls. Beneath them, humidity surges. Nurses race through tunnels to reposition brood, shifting larvae between chambers to prevent mold and death. Lightning cracks through the forest, sending vibrations deep into the earth. The queen remains still. Her workers move around her in streams of urgency, but she is the anchor, her presence a quiet command that holds the colony together when the world above feels ready to tear itself apart. During a rare lull in the storm, a forager ventures out. She senses a sharp, fresh indentation in the soil near a fallen branch. Something large moved here, a predator with jaws strong enough to snap a worker in half. The scent warns her. She marks it quickly before retreating, and defenders surface to investigate. The danger has passed for now, but the memory of it remains etched into the pheromone trails. When the rain finally weakens, the forest glimmers. Water beads hang from leaves like strings of molten glass. The air smells new, dense with fermentation, life, and the sharp edge of competition. And deep within the nest, something extraordinary begins. A pupal casing twitches, then another. Workers gather around the cluster as the young inside break free. But these new ants are different. Their thoraxes are broader, their bodies longer, and clinging to their sides, pale, folded wings. The colony's first alates. The workers clean them meticulously, brushing away pupal remnants while the alates stretch their wings in slow, careful motions. The chamber fills with a shimmering sense of change. These are not workers. These are the colony's future architects, males and queens meant to leave the nest, ascend into the open sky, and carry the lineage far beyond this patch of forest. Their emergence marks maturity, a milestone, a promise carried in delicate wings. In preparation, workers widen the upper tunnels. They clear debris from the surface entrance. They adjust airflow. They carve staging platforms near the chamber walls. Every movement anticipates the ritual that soon must come, the flight. The queen shifts slightly in her chamber, her pheromones changing in subtle but unmistakable ways. Workers freeze for a split second as the new signal washes over them. The message is clear: prepare. Outside, sunlight breaks through lingering storm clouds, scattering across the forest floor in brilliant shards. The wind warms. The air stabilizes. The moment is approaching, and when it arrives, the forest will witness a spectacle older than memory itself. When the storm finally loosens its grip on the forest, the world above the nest is transformed. The canopy drifts in shimmering strands, the soil exhales steam, and the air feels strangely buoyant, charged with a quiet tension that seems to reach all the way down into the chambers where the colony now waits. The alates sense it first. Their wings, once pale and fragile, darken slightly as they strengthen in the humid warmth. They move slowly at first, stepping with uncertain grace across the chamber floor. Workers give them space now, no longer brushing against them or guiding their steps. The colony recognizes instinctively that these individuals are different. Their lives do not belong to the tunnels. Their purpose lies somewhere above, in the shifting currents of the open sky. The queen's pheromones shift again. The signal is subtle but powerful, an ancient trigger passed down through unbroken generations. Workers respond instantly. They clear the upper corridor. They widen the entrance one last time, scraping soil from the edges, packing walls with tight precision. The air that flows into the nest grows warmer, brighter, filled with drifting hints of sunlight. Then, slowly, the alates begin their ascent. The first male reaches the entrance and pauses. The world beyond is overwhelming, flooded with color, movement, and scent. But something deep within him knows. This is the moment he was born for. His wings unfold. They catch the soft breeze. He begins to beat them, first slowly, then with a trembling urgency. He rises. A second male follows, then a third. The young queens emerge behind them, their bodies more substantial, their wings broad and shimmering with moisture. Workers line the tunnel walls as the alates pass, silent witnesses to the ritual they will never partake in. There is no envy, no longing, only purpose. When the first queen steps into the open air, she hesitates only a heartbeat before lifting her wings. And then the swarm begins. Dozens of alates lift into the air in a single breathtaking motion, their wings catching sunlight and scattering it into flashes of gold and silver. They rise through the forest in spiraling currents, ascending past twisting vines, past the glistening canopy, into a world that has no walls and no boundaries. Predators strike immediately. Birds dive with sudden violence, snapping at the rising swarm. Some alates vanish in an instant. Others twist awkwardly to evade the attacks, flailing through sunlight and shadow. A few tumble, wings torn, bodies falling back toward the forest floor where the world waits with its endless appetite. But enough survive. Enough climb higher, into clearer air where the wind carries them across vast distances. There, above the canopy, they meet. Mating takes place in rapid, chaotic bursts, a frenzy of instinct older than the forest itself. And when it is done, when the sky begins to darken and the first hints of twilight creep along the horizon, the new queens descend. Not gracefully, but with purpose. One drifts down onto a patch of soil softened by the recent storm. Her wings tremble. Her body is heavy with new life. She crawls across the earth, searching for the right place, somewhere quiet, sheltered, shaped by instinct rather than sight. When she finds it, she begins the ancient act of creation. She burrows downward, carving a chamber just deep enough to hide in. She pulls herself inside, turns, and seals the entrance with soil. The world goes dark. Her wings, symbols of her brief union with the sky, become unnecessary. She bites through them one by one. They fall beside her in fragile curls. And in that moment, alone, buried, surrounded by silence, she becomes something new, a founder of an empire. The next queen. Far from her, the original colony continues its relentless rhythm. Workers forage through dispersing storm debris, collecting the bodies of fallen alates and carrying them back to distant disposal chambers. Others harvest seeds shaken loose by the rain, drag insect fragments toward the nest, or explore newly exposed pockets of soil. The tunnels grow again. The chambers widen. The nest reshapes itself in subtle but constant motion. Defenders patrol the borders. Nurses tend to larvae whose bodies swell with nourishment. Pupae darken in their casings, preparing for emergence. The queen, massive, anchored, unwavering, resumes her steady cycle of creation. The swarm has passed, but her work is far from finished. Waves of new workers continue to hatch, each one stepping into a life already mapped by instinct. Seasons will shift. Floods will rise. Predators will stalk the forest. Rival colonies will challenge the borders. But the fire ants will endure. They will rebuild what falls, reclaim what is threatened, and spread their influence through soil and root and shadow. Because the colony is not a collection of individuals. It is a single organism, limitless, adaptive, unyielding. And beneath the earth, in the chamber she carved with her own body, the queen's pulse remains steady. A heartbeat that began in darkness. A legacy carried on thousands of tiny legs. A future written not in words, but in survival. For in this world, there is no stillness, no retreat, no ending, only rise, only expansion, only life pushing forward, again and again, through the soil.